Most of us know the story of Joseph of Egypt, who was given a marvelous coat by his father, sold into slavery by his brothers, and is the star of a Broadway musical. Living Scriptures has a fabulous video to help refresh your memory on this great man. Joseph's amazing life was one huge master symbol of Christ in many ways. So today, let's focus on some mind-blowing ways the life of Joseph points to the life of the Savior. Now, just as the Savior is our good shepherd, Joseph too was a shepherd. Joseph and the Savior were both hated by their brethren. But why was Joseph hated? Well, because he was Jacob's favorite son, and his coat annoyed his brothers. But what really made them mad were the things he often told them of the dreams he often had. One day, Jacob, now known as Israel, sent Joseph to the field to help his brothers. Unfortunately, because they hated him, they plotted to get rid of Joseph. They stripped him of his coat, and Judah had the idea to sell Joseph to the Ishmaelites for the cost of a common slave, just like Judas sold Jesus. Dragged hundreds of miles away to the mighty kingdom of Egypt, Joseph was bought by Potiphar, captain of the Pharaoh's guard. Joseph was obedient, continually prayed for strength, and was filled with God's love. Fortunately, Potiphar noticed that everything Joseph did pretty much turned out awesome, because the Lord was with him. So he appointed Joseph overseer of his whole house. However, in Potiphar's house, there was a big problem: Potiphar's wife. She tempted Joseph time and again to commit sin, but he always said, "No! How can I sin against God?" By the way, a good question to ask ourselves in compromising situations. But she didn't give up and one day trapped him. Refusing to compromise his integrity, he quickly fled and his cloak tore off, which she then used to falsely accuse him. So Potiphar's wife framed him and he was cast into prison. Joseph and Jesus were both falsely accused of sins they didn't commit and were declared guilty. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes even when we do the right thing, life can get worse, a lot worse. Have you ever felt this way? Joseph chose the right and was faithful, but the rewards didn't come for many years. However, these trials weren't a sign of God's disapproval. In fact, He had a plan for Joseph and was continually with him. Just as in our trials, He never abandons us. Amazingly, Joseph didn't lose hope and always remained faithful to the Lord. Now, in prison, the Lord blessed Joseph, and he won the respect of the chief jailer who made him overseer. This allowed him to have keys to the prison, which means he could have escaped, but remained honest and stayed. Jesus likewise could have escaped his pain and suffering at any time by calling down a legion of angels to be rescued, but he chose to stay and endure the pain because of his love for us. In prison, Joseph met two unlikely prisoners, the Pharaoh's head butler and chief baker, and was asked to interpret their dreams. With the power of God, Joseph predicted that in 3 days, the baker would be hanged, while the butler would be saved. These dreams also point to Jesus, who, like the baker, was killed, but after 3 days was redeemed, like the butler. 2 years later, Pharaoh woke up in a sweat after some crazy nightmares. He wanted to know what the dreams meant, but none of his counselors could interpret them. Suddenly, the butler remembered Joseph. So after descending below all in prison, Joseph was finally freed because of his God-given power to interpret dreams. Eventually, the power of God will free all of us from spirit prison. Now, Pharaoh's dreams predicted 7 years filled with bounteous harvest, followed by 7 years of famine. With Joseph's interpretations, he urged Pharaoh to make preparations to save his people, and offered many suggestions. Pharaoh was so impressed with his wise counsel that he appointed Joseph to oversee saving Egypt. By the way, Joseph, like Jesus, was 30 years old when he began his saving ministry. After stockpiling tons of food for 7 years, when the 7 years of famine struck Egypt, Joseph distributed life-saving food and bread, and the people saw him as a savior. This reminds us of our Savior, Jesus Christ, the bread of life. Eventually, because Joseph never forsook the Lord, he was blessed to be in the right place to save the lives of his father, brothers, and the entire house of Israel. Joseph's brothers visited him twice in Egypt, but didn't recognize him the first time. At their second coming, Joseph revealed himself and saved them. As they begged his forgiveness, he freely forgave and comforted those who'd betrayed him. Joseph truly became a great prophet. Whether he was on top of the world or in the depths of betrayal in prison, he always tried to be the very best version of himself. He descended from greatness and was one of the 12 sons of Israel. His 2 sons were Ephraim and Manasseh, and if you're part of one of those tribes, then you're a part of the tribe of Joseph. So, how many other similarities can you see between the lives of Joseph and Jesus Christ? Next week, we get the special treat of Living Scripture's Joseph Reunion. It takes a lot to make these videos, so to keep Line Upon Line free for everyone, consider donating. The link's in the description below. And thanks for watching. This episode is packed with info, so you might want to watch it again to make sure you didn't miss anything, including the hilarious jokes. If you feel this video has helped you on your path towards truth and Christian discipleship, please subscribe and share. Most importantly, go read the scriptures for yourself.